I, Philip Joseph here.
I would like to be judged as being the Prime Minister, not being judged as being part of a government.
Came into government that we had a manifesto and a vision and mission that had been approved by my party, by the highest body.
Basel 11 has not been in existence. 50 was...
Giant getting bazooka. Spraying big on to knock out mosquitoes.
I have never had a joint account with anybody in my life. Not my ex-wife, not my children, nobody. And I will refer that to the Privileges Committee.
What about the culture of people getting into office and not being effective? In
What people become Prime Ministers in Lucia have been the most ready.
Let's do it this Wednesday, because if it's Wednesday, it's NewsMaker Live.
This is one such occasion we'll be focusing on political developments in St. Lucia as we welcome you to another edition of NewsMaker Live right here on DBS Television. With me, Timothy Poleon. We go up until 10 o'clock this evening, at which time we conclude with the clip that peaked. We have yet another interesting guest on the broadcast. The individual is serving in the capacity of Officer for National Mobilization of the Opposition United Workers Party. Mrs. Nancy Charles is my guest. Good evening to you, ma'am. Welcome to the program.
Good evening, team, and good evening to your viewers. Let me say thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be here. It's been a while. I don't think I've been on your show.
Maybe a good year and a few months.
Yes, it's been a little while, but I am very, very happy to be here today. Good circumstances have brought me here, not bad ones. And I have a few friends who said to me, especially there's a young lady in Dennery team. She says to me, make sure I say hi. So hello to my young lady friend who's a teacher in Dennery. Let me say hello to all of you all around the island. We do have a Creole speaking audience who listens to you as well, team. So Temwedi boss we put tout moun is a place pour moi ici also.
Okay. Thank you so much for being my guest once again. Merci tout bon moment. One of the activities you have coming up before Sunday's William Peter Boulevard is on Thursday, and that is tomorrow. The National Council of the UWP will be meeting. To do what?
The National Council is the highest decision-making body of the United Workers Party, outside of the National Convention. But they ratify mostly all the decisions of the National Executive.
So who make up the National Council?
So the National Council is made up of the executive members of the party, and every constituency branch has 3 members. So that includes the chairman of the constituency branch and 2 other members. And they collectively form the National Council of the UWP. What they do is to ratify, and the constitution is very clear and specific in the decisions that the National Council must ratify in order for it to go through. So for example, if we're hosting a convention, all the activities leading to a national convention, including our zonal conferences, including our conference of delegates, and also the date for the national convention, these must be ratified by the National Council. When it comes to election, and also the election of senators and also candidates / MPs, well, who are going to be MPs, these must also be ratified by the National Council. So what is going to happen on Thursday? The National Council will meet, and the political leader who has the ultimate, I guess, last say in the recommendations. There's a committee and there's a team going through the process of candidate selection. But the political leader in this instance will then present to the National Council the recommendations of that team as to who the potential candidates are for the various constituencies. In our case, we will not be recommending all the candidates, all 17 candidates, but we're going for a phased approach. And why are we doing that phased approach? Because we have some constituencies, once we open up the process, some constituencies were ahead of others. In some constituencies, and I do have to say, team, I am so proud. I have been affiliated with the United Workers Party from 1997. I have been at the hierarchy of the party maybe from about 2011, since I ran as a candidate. This is the first time that I have seen so many persons apply, and in particular young persons apply to become candidates of the party. So as of today, and some constituencies still have not closed off their process. They're still ongoing, waiting for more persons to apply. We've had 31 persons apply to become candidates for the United Workers' Party. So it's no exaggeration.
To what do you attribute this?
I think it's a lot of things. But first and foremost, I do have to say is persons have had an opportunity to look at the vision of an Alan Chasney government and Alan Chasney as leader, and a Philip J. Pierre administration with Philip J. Pierre as leader. And I think a lot of people, when they wait and they look at it, we're into the 4th year of the St. Lucia Labour Party. And when people wait and they look at it, you can clearly see, and I think a lot of them can clearly see, St. Lucians can clearly see, that Alan Chasney is definitely a more visionary leader, people-centered, caring about people, and everything that the party or Alan Chasney would propose as a party to do is about people, vis-a-vis Philip J. Pierre, who talks about people and say that he puts people first, but every action of the government is to the detriment of the people. And I think that is the biggest contributing factor, and people want to be part of that. People want to be part of that vision, part of that movement of working with somebody like an Alan Chasney, for example. The second thing about it is that in the constituencies and at the grassroots level, team, persons are quote unquote a little bit tired of the normal politician. They want normal, ordinary people that they feel that understands them, that are like them, that live with them, and that will do for them, as opposed to just talkers. And I think what the constituency branches have done has been able to identify persons like that, who are grassroots, who knows and understand the people, who walk and talk with the people, and these people are now really having the heart of the issues. They really care about people, and they're saying, listen, I'm not a politician, I'm not into politics, I don't really like that politics thing. However, if this is the way to change the lives of people, to change my community and my country, then I am going to put my hat in the ring to make that difference. And I think these are
in
the
the
two
end,
contributing
don't those people
factors.
metamorphose later to become politicians?
My best advice, politicians is not a bad thing, okay? We make it. We individuals are the ones who make it bad. Politics and politicians, they are good things. These are good. These are good representation of what our society should be.
Good people,
however,
until they become contaminated.
Until they come inside there, and then maybe perhaps the pressures of the people. I've always said, Tim, and I ascribe to that our politicians are a reflection of who we are. Why do I say that? Because a politician can only be elected by the people. And if that politician, in your opinion, is not doing good, is not, for you or for the people, etc., but yet still you continue to elect them, then it says to me that's what you want. You don't want any different. And I've seen it many times. I've seen two candidates, Tim. You have somebody who, quote unquote, in our parlance we call a good man, honest, loving, has a family, cares about the people, and you have somebody who's probably not so, but they have how the old people say it, la lag. They speak very well, and they walk, they talk the talk, etc. And what do people do? They choose the person who has the most la lag, the people who can speak and convince them, as opposed to choosing the worker.
But don't think about presentation, and people want individuals who are confident, people who are leaders, and people who can represent the interest.
Well, I think so, but I don't know. Maybe in the presentation we need to do a little bit more soul searching, and which is one of the things that the United Workers' Party is doing with this candidate selection process. And that's why you have so many as well, that we're not only making a determination, or the committee is not only making a determination based on just your presentation and you come and you talk. Background checks are being done. There's a lot of talk in the communities that the team goes around and find out about those people, who they are, what do they do, are they workers? Because remember, we're at a United Workers' Party and we want to put a team of workers together. So we are going through the process. It's not an easy process, but we're trying to ensure that we go through it with a fine-tooth comb so that at this point we will be presenting, when we present a candidate for the United Workers' Party to the people, we know we are presenting to you a dedicated, a worker, somebody who the people trust, and somebody who will work for the people.
So once the National Council decides that they want Peter to be the candidate for a particular constituency, does it end there, or does the leader of the party, can he have a say and he might overrule National Council?
I'm not too sure if the leader will overrule National Council. Looking at it,
I didn't say he will. I said he can.
Well, perhaps because of the way the process is, you don't present to the national in most instances, unless if a poll is conducted, the votes are very close, and you look at it and you see that you have two very good candidates and the committee cannot come to a conclusion as to who that candidate could be, then they will present to the National Council two candidates, and you'll have people who will vote for either or of those candidates. In most instances, after all the work is done, after you've gone to the constituency, after the team has done the background check, after they've spoken to the constituents, and remember the constituency branch also has a role to play in a recommendation, etc. After all of that is done, in most instances, the political leader only presents one name to the National Council. And so if he is presenting that particular name, I'm not too sure if there's an opportunity for him to now override and say, okay, I presented that name, but I don't want it anymore. Perhaps in the case of if two names are presented, then he may override the decision. But we haven't had that in a while. And I hope to God that we don't, because these things create a lot of unnecessary friction. So we have come to the conclusion as members of the National Executive and the Council, and even at the constituency branch, that once we've gone through the process, we will be accepting the decision of the National Council. It doesn't mean that everybody will be happy, Tim. It doesn't mean that everybody will agree, and that is okay. That is our right. Some people do have a preference. If you and I are going up as candidates for a constituency, some people may prefer you, some people may prefer me. But I think what we are all united in is that both Tim and Nancy are going up for UWP. Whoever the candidate is that is selected, it may not have been my preferred candidate, but I will support that candidate because it's the United Workers' Party candidate. And that's what I know for sure we can all agree on. So you may hear after the National Council a few people who are discontent, they're not happy, they wanted this candidate instead. And it's okay, we'll give them a little time to go through that process, that healing process. But what I can guarantee you in the final analysis, everybody will come together and rally behind those candidates in support of the United Workers Party.
Do you have any kind of precondition whereby you say to the two candidates, whoever wins, the other person will support the winner, and they agree to it?
They agree to it. As a matter of fact, what we do, we create this little thing that we get them to sign, some sort of a commitment. So once you've become a candidate and you've gone through the process and you're probably at the top tier, maybe if there were 3 or 4 and we selected the top 2, then we get everybody to sign up. In fact, I think it's every person who applies as well. Once you've agreed to go through the process, you're given this sort of commitment form to sign to agree that whoever comes out as the candidate, that you will continue to support that particular person and rally. And we have to also understand as well, team, that it does not take one candidate to win that seat. It takes everybody. And I think all the candidates also understand that. They agree to that. They understand that they also can have an impact on the outcome of the elections. And so that's why they've all agreed. Once you come in and you want to go through the process, you sign that commitment. And I'm very happy that I can't think of one candidate who has not agreed. In fact, all of them have agreed. We have constituencies where you have brothers vying for candidacy, and they have agreed. I mean, they've said, listen, bro, if you get through, I'm going with you. If you get through, I'm going with you. So that's the kind of spirit we have within the United Workers' Party at this time.
Now, with regard to the National Council, you said earlier on that you have a situation where as many as 31 people have signed up, want to contest elections on behalf of the United Workers' Party. But you're talking about numbers, quantity. What about the quality? And considering that the UWP is in opposition, I think sometimes it puts you at a disadvantage to attract quality candidates because of probably what can be offered to them.
In the past, I think that was the case. I think when we ran in 2016, for example, initially it was very challenging because we were in opposition. And one would have expected this time around that we would probably have that challenge. Unfortunately, it's not so. I personally have been very, very impressed with some of the people who are vying to become candidates for the United Workers' Party. These are persons who hold high office, high position. These are persons that one would not ordinarily think that they are interested in politics, and they're saying to you, listen, I want to see a change in my country, I want to see a change in my community, I want to make things better, and I think that I can make an impact. So I do have to say, in terms of, it's not only in terms of quantity, but in terms of quality, we're really at the top. And I think maybe that's why it's proving to be a little bit challenging as well for the team, team to come to a conclusion, because the candidates are really of high quality. And even at the constituency level, it's difficult for the constituents to choose, because it's like, everybody's good, we want all of them. How do we decide? So it's a tough decision for the team and the committee, but I can certainly say to you, Timothy, and to persons who come to the Boulevard on Sunday, that they will be very impressed with the first phase of candidates that we will be presenting. I think people will say, oh, finally, United Workers' Party is ready. People will be very impressed.
What about having candidates to go up against formidable opponents? Let's look at two constituencies, your Castries Central and Castries North. How do you come up with the right candidates so that you could put up a reasonable fight, a successful fight against the likes of the veterans of Mr. Stevenson King and Mr. Richard Frederick?
Well, I would say to you, let's look at the example of Micoud North, for example. Micoud North was always considered a United Workers' Party seat. I don't know if history is right that United Workers' Party has never lost the Micoud North seat. And in the last election, United Workers' Party lost the Micoud North seat. So I don't know what makes an opponent formidable to the point that this person cannot be defeated. Election is about strategy. In as much as it is also your candidate, it's also about strategy. It's about the numbers. And when you look at the numbers, for example, when you analyze the numbers that Stevenson King would have won by, considering that Stevenson King did not have an opponent within the Labour Party. He was the de facto candidate for the St. Lucia Labour Party. Stevenson King did not amass any significant number of votes that you would have expected he would have amassed both the UWP and the Labour Party vote vis-a-vis a UWP candidate. So he's not formidable at all. It says to me that he was only able to amass perhaps a small number of votes from the Labour Party who didn't run a candidate, and still be able to keep some of the people who were very loyal to him. And because people were also very confused, what we have since seen, I can certainly tell you, is that from the last year and a half coming into now, a huge number of UWP supporters and faithful from the Castries North area has come back to the United Workers' Party. And they did say to us, well, we voted for Mr. King because Mr. King has done this for us, etc., etc. But there was a lot of loyalty to Mr. King because of UWP. But now that he serves in a Labour Party cabinet, and people have seen through the lies of Stevenson King, people have seen through that all of what Stevenson King said, he is now singing a different song. People cannot see he cannot substantiate any of the allegations he made with reference to, for example, Guy Joseph interfering in his ministry. He's still at that same ministry, and the ministry is still not performing. So, I mean, people can see through that, and persons have come back and said, we voted for Mr. King, but we are UWP people at heart. And so we were a bit confused, and they've come back. So I can certainly say to you that Stevenson King is not going to get a pass in this upcoming election, because the United Workers' Party is going to take back our supporters, our votes in that constituency. Additionally, in the Castries Central area as well, Richard Frederick and you would have seen Sarah Flood-Bobra won the seat very easily. She was not even the candidate throughout the process. You would recall we had somebody else, and then we brought Sarah in very late, and Sarah was able to amass the support of UWP supporters. And so we believe that if we get the right...
The big issue, Mr. Charles, is that if she came in very late and she won, she had 5 years to prove herself to the people, then why she lost?
Well, let me tell you something. There was a national swing, and I think everybody would agree there was a national swing. It didn't help that you had Richard Frederick for the 5 years who was spewing a lot of lies, a lot of propaganda. He had documents all over the place, and now all of a sudden that has changed. I think if you look at it, and you probably go on the ground, you speak to people, a lot of people don't believe anything Richard Frederick says anymore, because people have seen through the bluff, people have seen through the fluff, and people recognize that this was and always has been a fight between Alan Chasney and Richard Frederick. There's a lot of hatred for Alan Chasney by Richard Frederick, and people are just not subscribing to that anymore. So when you go on the ground, it's a different story. I can certainly tell you that.
But in terms of the two candidates I made reference to, you spoke about strategy, but those are wily and cunning individuals you're talking about.
I don't underestimate anybody from the St. Lucia Labour Party. So I wouldn't single out Stevenson King and Richard. I mean, I don't underestimate Philip J. Pierre. I don't underestimate Musa or Alva or Sean or these people. So all of them, we put all of them in the same category team. Again, like I said, it's candidate plus strategy. If you do your work, if you do your homework, and if you do what is right, I believe that we have a very good opportunity in winning back, especially some of the seats that we lost in the last election. We have a very good opportunity in winning back those seats.
It is being suggested, I don't want to delve too much into it, but it's being suggested that genuine supporters of the United Workers' Party are biding their time, and in the hope that Alan Chasney and Guy Joseph will lose the upcoming general election, and then new leadership will emerge to take over the helm of the UWP. Are you getting a sense that this is the case right now?
I saw that story, Tim, and I'm laughing because somebody sent it to me, and I couldn't believe, well, to begin with, I couldn't believe the source. This is somebody who's not credible. This is somebody who has no relationship with anybody within the UWP. Notwithstanding, this individual said that he has quote-unquote spoken to persons within the United Workers' Party. There is 100% support by the stalwarts, by the members, the supporters, and people of this country nationally for Alan Chasney as our political leader. We went through a process in our convention last year, and there was overwhelming support for both Dominic Fede and Guy Joseph as our deputy political leader. There is no murmurings or grumblings within the United Workers' Party for against Alan Chasney, Guy Joseph, Dominic Fede, who are our leaders within the party. None whatsoever. So all I can say when I saw it, I'm like, these are made up stories. But what it says to me as well is that the Labour Party is starting again and thinking that they will fool St. Lucians again to try and create this perception that there is disunity within the party. People don't like Alan Chasney and think that people will buy that. People don't buy that anymore, Tim. People see the unity within the United Workers' Party. People see that this is one party united in spirit and in thrust in terms of what we want to accomplish for this country. Are there persons who do not support Alan Chasney who were supporters of the United Workers' Party? Yes. And that is okay, because sometimes some people, they don't see eye to eye on an issue. But what has happened is some of these people have parted ways. They have decided, well, perhaps we do not agree, and we have parted ways. Are we making every effort to try and see if we can reconcile those persons? Yes, we are. But there is no guarantee. However, what the United Workers' Party has done is to move forward. Whilst you are moving forward, you try to reconcile some of those broken relationships and bring them back together, but we are moving forward. So in the current construct of the UWP, we have a lot of, if I can look at maybe one or two persons when I came into UWP who were stalwarts and considered to be at the hierarchy of the party, who probably are not there. But 99% of those persons still remain, still support Alan Chasney, and still support the United Workers' Party. So there is no truth to that. There's no validity to that. And I just treat it as garbage.
But going into a general election, don't you want that previous stalwarts, even people who have a different opinion of things, different ideas, they have disagreements with their political leader, that they still would be a part of the effort to unseat the government?
We do, and that's why I made mention that we are making every effort as well to try and reconcile some of those relationships. I don't know that, I don't have, how do you see that? I can't see the future, and I am really hoping, and we are also really hoping, we are making every effort to ensure that, elections and political organizations is about addition and multiplication, not subtraction and not division. And so at this point in time, we have heavily focused on our multiplication, meaning multiplying the number of supporters that we have, and also on our addition in terms of adding to the pool that we have currently. So again, we are making every effort to amend some of those broken relationships, and we will continue to try. We will never stop trying. Some of these people do have relationships with other members within the party, and they talk to other members within the party because their heart is still with the United Workers' Party. And so what I can safely say to you again, within where we're at, there's no division. Are there persons who probably have parted ways with the party because of whatever the issues were? Yes, and we're not going to deny that. Are we making every effort to bring these people back on board? 100% we are. And I think we can safely say that maybe one or two, in some cases, there's a few who have come back, and they're still working with us behind the scenes. There's still a few who are still watching and seeing how the tide goes, etc. But I don't know that anybody is hoping for us to lose the election so that we can get rid of Alan Chastney. None. So this is just a made-up stuff by somebody.
Why do you think that people are still looking at this whole situation in St. Lucia as far as politics is concerned regarding the two leaders? And I must admit that it's shameful looking at it from the perspective of describing the political leader of the UWP as being white, and therefore ought not to have somebody of his pigmentation or his race, his class, etc., to be at the helm of the government of St. Lucia.
Tim, to be honest, I don't even understand it. I've listened to Rick a couple of times, spoken about it, and within my own self, I was a member of the United Workers' Party government administration at the time, in the office of the Prime Minister. And when some of these racial slurs were being bandied about, I'll be honest with you, I did not take it on because I did not think that St. Lucians would believe and buy into that rhetoric. And it's not an excuse, but it is, for me, I am of Indian heritage, right? And I have friends who are of different ethnicity. And that has never, ever been an issue for us in St. Lucia. Absolutely never. And then the first time that I heard, I mean, there were little talks, etc. But the first time that I heard it, when there was this woman in a match that the Labour Party had, and she was clearly wearing a red shirt, and she said, Alan Chastney is a white man and we don't want him in our country. And I thought, and right there and then there was this public meeting, and even afterwards the media carried it. I remember some television stations carried it. I honestly thought that the Labour Party would have come out and said, listen, this is a supporter and we do not subscribe to that. I have never heard, and I stand corrected, I have never heard the Labour Party come out and say we do not subscribe to that. As a matter of fact, the Labour Party continued to perpetuate this thing by trying to pit, and remember when they did the Jack don't want me to bathe on my beach, etc., with the issue with Marjorie and so forth. And then I slowly saw what St. Lucians would do in the name of politics. And I frame it that way because I don't think that majority of St. Lucians care about whether you're white, black, or whatever. But because of political reasons, because it suits the narrative, because they cannot find anything else to say about Alan Chastney. Alan Chastney is rich. Alan Chastney's father, he was born with a golden spoon in his mouth. Alan Chastney's all these kind of things. So it's personalized against Alan Shastney. Not about his achievement, not about his vision, not about the way that he governs, but it's about him personally, and so the race factor came into play. I think it's very shameful in 2024 that you have, I was in New York just a couple of weeks ago. We call it quote unquote white man's country, right? You have tens of thousands of St. Lucians who are in New York, they're in Canada, they're in the UK. All these countries are considered to be white man country. And I don't understand why we in St. Lucia can be so narrow-minded and focused. And I think it's a shame, not on St. Lucians, you know, it's a shame on the St. Lucia Labour Party. It's a shame on a sitting Prime Minister. It's a shame on an MP like Richard Frederick, who continues to perpetuate it on his talk show. And nobody within the Labour Party, Timothy, nobody within the Labour Party comes out and say, we do not ascribe to this white and black thing. We do not ascribe to racism in our country. We don't like Alan Shastney because he's our opponent in politics. But I don't even understand
why do you single out the St. Lucia Labour Party?
Because it is coming only from the Labour Party.
Agreed.
Only.
Agreed, but why do you expect that the St. Lucia Labour Party will come out and condemn it? Why not look for people who are on neutral ground? For example, the religious community. What example, the private sector interests, your Chamber of Commerce, various people in the NGO community coming out and speak out against this.
I agree to it. I agree to that as well, Tim. But I think there's been occasions when certain things has been said on a UWP platform, and we have come out afterwards. You remember the incident with Peter Josie and the statement he made? The United Workers' Party came back right afterward. We issued a press statement and we spoke about it and said, we do not ascribe to this. It's unfortunate that statement was made, etc. And that is what is expected of a political organization if you do not ascribe to a particular point of view that is being made by your supporters. You can't control your supporters, team. You can't control what your supporters say. However, you can distance yourself from certain things that our supporters say. I'll give you an example. Many St. Lucians perhaps look at Donald Trump and they don't like Donald Trump. Why? Because they think he's a racist, he don't like black people, etc. But I say to St. Lucians, look at yourself in the mirror. How different are you to the same man that you are criticizing Donald Trump? When you do not come out and stand up like you say, when the chamber doesn't come out, when the priests and the pastors and these people don't come out, when the medical people don't, when civil society organizations don't come out and stand up and make a statement against this, you are exactly like this man Donald Trump that all of you seems to hate, because it's the same thing he's spewing and we're doing the same thing here. So how different are you? So when you want to speak about race and say this man, etc., let's take a look at ourselves in the mirror, team. It's uncalled for. Are people going to look at me and say, well, they don't like me because I'm a quote-unquote coolie, I'm Indian? And then how far do we take it? Then they're going to say, well, Tim is too black, we don't like him, and Nancy is a lighter complexion, we like her. How far do we want to take this? It's crazy. And so for me, it's not an excuse, like I said, but when it started coming out, I was like, I don't believe in 2023 and 2021 or 2020 we're going to ascribe to that. But it continued, and because you're a political organization, you have to be responsible, team. You must be responsible. And it's something that I am trying to ensure that I also hold the United Workers' Party to, that we have to be responsible. We have to distance ourselves from statements that are being made. If we do not ascribe to it, we have to come out immediately and say, we do not support this.
Any regret that in the run-up to the last general election, there wasn't sufficient pushback on this whole race issue?
A lot. They say hindsight is 2020. A lot. And again, that's why I'm saying, I think within us as a team, most of the team members felt that we're not going to take that on. Let's talk about the issues. Let's talk about the development of this country. Let's talk about something that matters. But what we didn't recognize, that the Labour Party ensured that race was what matters. And I can certainly tell you, team, as I go around in this country and continue to go around, I still hear people they can't say anything bad about Alan Shastney, and they tell you, but he's a white man, and so it's still there.
Can that cause you to lose the next general election?
No, I don't think so, because I think majority of persons have understood that it plays no significance. And not only that, the Labour Party is doing so badly at managing this country that at this point in time, people are looking at the bread and butter issues. People are looking at the cost of living. People are looking at the fact that the price of every single thing in this country has gone up. People are looking at the policy decisions of this government that they have implemented that is not in the interest of people. People are looking at the scandals upon scandals. I mean, when we were in government, the Labour Party created scandal. And I'm hoping that maybe we can speak a little bit about the special prosecutor that has been appointed, and nothing to date. But in this current Labour Party, we have given you proof and evidence of scandal, evidence of perceived corruption within this government, and people are now looking at the issues. I can certainly tell you a huge percentage of the population don't care whether Philip J. is black or white. Neither do they care if Alan Chasney is black or white. People are concerned about how they're going to survive. They're concerned about the management of this country, and they're concerned about the mistake they made in giving Philip J. a chance to become Prime Minister, and he has made a disaster out of it.
You're making reference there to corruption, but do you have an Integrity Integrity in Public Life Act enacted in 1999? Why continue to talk about corruption, both from the perspective of the SLP and the UWP, but no one has been found wanting, no one has been arrested, no one has been charged, no one has been put behind bars? In terms of the relevance, in terms of credibility, do you think that any politician can accuse another one of being corrupt in St. Lucia, whether they are from the side of the UWP or the SLP?
Well, what I can certainly say to you, that on the part of the United Workers' Party, when we say to you that there is a perception of a corrupt act, we give you the evidence. So, for example, in the issue of the Banans land, we did not say that there was corruption without providing evidence. We provided you with the evidence that there was a valuation that was done in a particular year. There was a revaluation that was done. And we all know in St. Lucia, Timothy, land appreciates in value, it doesn't depreciate. So if a particular year, let's say last year, your land was valued at X amount, if you value that land 1 year later, the value of the land will go up. A revaluation was done and the value of the land went down. But notwithstanding that, we now have evidence that we've shown you that the value of the land went down, but it was valued at a particular price, and the board of directors made a decision to sell that land not even within the value of that revaluation. So if it was valued at 5 million, it's revalued down to 2 million. They still didn't sell it at the 2 million. They still sold it below price. And then we have showed you all the evidence based on the court documents that persons lied in that process. Slasper, the chairman of the CEO of Slasper, the minister, all these people lied by saying Slasper didn't want the land. But the evidence shows that Slasper was interested in the land. They were about to undertake a loan to purchase the land. Then you speak about who the land was sold to. The land was sold to a young lady who happens to be the daughter of a gentleman. And the gentleman is the one in the business. Why is it that the land was not sold to him directly? Why did they have to go sideways and sell it to his daughter, who doesn't even carry his surname? Because maybe people thought that it would not come out. So all these little things we've shown you, we've given you the evidence. So we're not making an allegations. For example, somebody called...
But does that amount to corruption if I decide that I want to undersell my land?
No,
if
you have your own personal property and you decide, Timothy Poleon, that you can undersell it and sell it to whoever you want, there's no corruption there. But this is public property. And there are processes and procedures that has to go through when it comes to public property. Why is it that the land was not put out to tender? Why is it that nobody else knew the land was available for sale? So there are processes that you have to go through. And that's why we make these allegations, because if they had followed due process, nobody would have queried it. If due process was followed, then we would have said that they followed, but then no due process was followed. So yes, you can do what you want with your property, but we cannot do what we want with public property. Yeah, but we have to be held accountable to a higher standard.
That is a good point. But don't you think that we have to reach a level where, for example, as obtains in the United States and elsewhere more developed jurisdictions, where if, for example, there are breaches in terms of your procedure, in terms of how you do certain things on behalf of the state, that you would be made to account. Where are the checks and balances as far as St. Lucia is concerned, instead of the naming and shaming, which has been happening for decades now?
Well, there are checks and balances in place. I think as you say, the integrity in public life is there. The public service have checks and balances that is put in place. You have the Public Finance Act. You have all these that are in place for checks and balances. What you have is that you have politicians, and I say politicians in general. I'm not singling out any party. What you have is that politicians are using the undue influence to prevent those perhaps public servants from speaking out and showing that things are not being done properly. Now, in my opinion, I am hoping that when the United Workers' Party wins the next general election, we keep the special prosecutor. Because you see, perhaps we feel that the certain legislations that are already in place is not sufficient and you need a special person. We keep the special prosecutor and allow for there to be a proper investigation by the special prosecutor into all these acts of perceived corruption that we are speaking about, and then you will see what will happen. I think Alan Chasney during his tenure passed legislation to ensure that even if you have left office how many years later, you can still be held accountable, and that is the level of accountability that we want. So the legislation is there, the law is there, and I am hoping that the special prosecutor remains. He's not doing anything. It's over a year, Timothy. We have heard absolutely nothing. Not one interview, not one press release, not one item that is being investigated. We've asked what is the telephone number, because we as an opposition, we do have items that we want to refer to the special prosecutor for investigation. But I am told that his office is not ready. He doesn't have any staffing yet. I don't know why we continue to pay somebody over a year and nothing has been put in place to ensure that those checks and balances that you talk about can be put in place.
But what gives you the impression, if come the next general election, the United Workers' Party wins, that there'll be a different mode of operation as far as dealing with whether it's alleged or actual acts of corruption?
The United Workers' Party has made a commitment. One of the things that is new and different for us in moving forward. You would hear us speak about it all the time. You'd hear our leaders speak about it all the time. We have learned. There's value sometimes in losing an election. And what we have learned is that you can't be in opposition speaking about one thing, and when you get to government, you do something different. And that, I can tell you, is a very valuable lesson that we have learned as a team, as colleagues, and we intend the same principles and standards that we hold right now. We intend to hold those same principles and standards going into government. There has to be a change, team. There has to be a change. There has to be a change in how people view politics and politicians. And we are determined. Maybe we might not do it full 360, but we are determined that step by step by step, that we set the example as a reinvigorated party, that when we get into office, we set a different standard. We can't be in office and be hosting and have a minister host a talk show and come out with all private documents of citizens, berate citizens, bully people on media, and then you have a leader like Alan Chasney who's not going to say anything. That can never happen under UWP. Absolutely never. So we are going to be different.
Correct. Crime. This is a bugbear. This is the elephant in the room. How does the United Workers' Party propose to deal with this problem when, for example, we're hearing the Prime Minister of St. Lucia describing it as a crime pandemic? And the Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley of Trinidad and Tobago, is also making reference to what is happening in the other islands. Likewise, his counterpart over in Barbados, Mia Motley. So basically, crime is a challenge for most territories in the region. How can the United Workers' Party deal with this problem if it gets into office?
Well,
it has to deal with it because it has been speaking about it for quite some time.
United Workers' Party, certainly what I can tell you, one of the ways they will not deal with it is not by throwing their hands in the air and say, I give up. And if anybody has any suggestions to tell me what to do, I can certainly tell you that whoever our leader is going to be in terms of our crime fighting effort, whoever the minister is going to be, will never be allowed to come on national television and say, I give up, I don't know what to do, if you have any suggestions or ideas. We will certainly ensure that we're not going to put in a commissioner for 6 months to say that we are serious about crime fighting and bring in a commissioner of police for 6 months. The United Workers' Party has a history of some of the things when we recognize that crime, because when we got into office, there's always been crime, but we recognized that there was an uptick and we started putting things in place. So, for example, let's look at the dogs thing. We decided, when you look at it holistically, we recognize one of the reasons that you had so much shooting happening in this country is because you had an influx of illegal weapons, right? So we decided to track what's the source of those illegal weapons. And the source of those illegal weapons were that you had borders that were more or less very porous. People can come in at any port. You also had our ports of entry in this country. And so what did we do? We put in those X-ray machines at those ports of entry so you could be able to screen the barrels, the bags, and these things that were coming in. What happened? The X-ray machines are down. When we also recognized that, okay, let's use new strategies. We brought in the canine dogs, and we had a team of dogs. And the former commissioner gave you the figures and the numbers in terms of the number of raids, the number of weapons that were recovered as a result of those dogs. And what did the Labour Party do? As soon as they came in, they attacked the owner of the dogs, who's perceived in their mind to be a supporter of UWP, and made everybody believe that it was $40,000 was too much to care for the dogs, the owners, the food, and everything else. And they make a big issue out of it. You understand? And they did away with the dogs. And only like last year, was it, or this year, they accepted one dog from the French. The same thing that they spoke about, these dogs, they said they were going to try and bring it back, but the dogs had already left to another Caribbean country. So I'm saying that we have had a history of trying unconventional things, because you cannot continue to do things the same way and think that you're going to get a different result. So we've tried unconventional thing. What I can certainly say to you is that what we have agreed is that we're not going to try and maybe do everything on our own. What is it that our other partners in the region is doing that is helping them? Some countries have very few murders, so they must be doing something right. So we can lean and learn from them. We can see what is it that they're doing that is right, that works, and then we can copy it and do the same thing in our country. But we're certainly not going to make excuses. We're certainly not going to stand up and say, well, what else do you want me to do? We are going to take responsibility like Alan Chasney has always done when he was Prime Minister.
What do you think of the fact that under the SLP, you had the first female police commissioner? You as a woman.
Tokenism. It was pure tokenism. When the commissioner was put in place, I was very happy. I thought first female commissioner as a woman. But as time goes by, and based on some of the information that I got, because I do have sources all over, I recognized it was tokenism. And why? We had brought up, well, not we, but there was this issue that was brought up by the Police Welfare Association with reference to a particular senior person within the police force and allegations of sexual misconduct against this gentleman. We were very much aware that the gentleman had surpassed, they'd had him to jump how many positions, and he was being put in a position to become the commissioner of police. Now, once the Police Welfare Office had made those allegations and written those letters, then you had a little stopgap, and then the Labour Party decided, okay, this thing is coming up, let's see where this goes. But in the meantime, what do? We still want him to be in the background, turning the wheels and doing everything that he needs to do. So who or what can we do? And so they put a woman there to say, oh, we have the first woman commissioner of police, etc. But it was still these people who were turning the wheels behind the scene. And that's why I call it tokenism. And so we kept on the pressure. I personally kept on the pressure, and I didn't want to do it because I didn't want it to seem political. But I felt that as a woman a mother, an aunt. I have daughters. I have friends who are women. An issue of sexual misconduct, which may include issues of rape. These are serious issues impacting women. And I would not have felt comfortable if I didn't continue on that issue. And so at the end of the day, I was very, very disappointed. And I say I was very disappointed because I expected a lot more from our first female commissioner. However, I do have to say when she left us with a parting gift, which I can say thank you to her for, in that she ensured she allowed for there to be an investigation into those allegations, which we have now heard that this gentleman has been brought in for questioning. There are allegations of one allegation of rape and a few allegations of sexual misconduct. I am very happy for that. All I've been asking for is the investigation and allow the process to go through. If it comes out the gentleman is innocent, I have no issues with that. But I will be satisfied that there was a proper investigation done into this matter and that everybody can now see whether he was guilty or not guilty. That's all we had always asked for.
We have a new police commissioner to serve for 6 months. And generally speaking about the Royal St. Lucia Police Force, I know that might not be within your jurisdiction. You might not be National Security Minister, etc. But the fact that the Royal St. Lucia Police Force seems politicized, infiltrated by politicians in terms of influencing decisions taken by the police. We have no evidence of this, but this is something we're not hearing only now, although it's rife, but we've been hearing for a very long time now. How does a government try to implement positive change within an institution like the Royal St. Lucia Police Force without politicizing it?
Well, there's a process. And I think if it's one thing that I continue to learn from the political leader of the United Workers' Party is an appreciation for the process. If we look at what the process is within the Public Service Commission and / within the constitution of the appointment of a police commissioner, I think eventually we can get to the point where we'll be appointing police commissioner and senior persons within the hierarchy of the police without political interference.
But they
don't go through the process.
With all the process talking about it, if the Prime Minister does not want a particular individual to serve, he will not be appointed.
And that's it. And so that's where I'm saying the process has to be seen as fair, and it has to be seen in the best interest of this country. Not in the best interest, because I'll tell you one thing. What is the point of you as Prime Minister appointing a police commissioner who may be your friend or somebody you like or somebody who supports your political party when he's not qualified and he's not doing the job right and he makes you look bad? You understand? So you have to apply some rationale to it. Why would I want to appoint somebody just on the basis of their political connections when they cannot perform in the role and they make me look bad? Why should I not just apply common sense and allow the process to go through and allow the best person who's most suited for the job, the person who can come up with the suggestions and the ideas, the person who has the gonads to stand up and transform that police force?
Should we change the constitution whereby the Prime Minister does not have a say in the appointment of a police commissioner, because it is through the Public Service Commission, then the Governor General, but if the Prime Minister does not want that person, he or she will not be appointed police commissioner.
Well, I'll tell you something. That's not the only person that the Prime Minister has to give the approval to. From my short stint in government, everybody who is over the grade, a grade 18 officer and above, every appointment has to be ratified, quote unquote, approved by the Prime Minister or the minister responsible for the public service in that regard. So this is not the only appointment that the Prime Minister has to approve. I think what it has to be is that if the Constitution calls for it, the Prime Minister has to be objective in the recommendation that is being made to him. And so at the end of the day, if he is satisfied that there is a fair and proper process within the Public Service Commission to go through to appoint that particular person, once he's satisfied with that and he's objective in his dealings and speaking and ensuring that that process was done properly, I don't know why he should not approve. Maybe the reasons that they are not approving is because they're not satisfied with the process that was gone through. I don't know. I've not been involved at that level. But all I'm saying is there's a process. And I think if we allow for there to be a fair and objective process to take place in the appointment, eventually we will get a commissioner or police commissioner who's non-partisan, quote unquote, who will not be doing the bidding of politicians, but will be doing what is right by this country and by the police force.
But to be fair, we have no evidence of our
None.
police commissioners being
None.
influenced by
None.
any politician.
But I'll tell you something. Why is it that we make those type of assertions? And I'll go back to the appointment. If crime is so serious, Tim, and if it is important to the current administration, you had a police commissioner who left office, and you want to send a strong statement to your police force to say, listen, I need to give you the tools that you need, and the tools that you need is a good leader as well. If you want to send a statement to the population to say, I take this thing seriously, and I am going to put somebody in charge who's going to take this to the next level, you do not appoint a commissioner for 6 months, Timothy. Knowing the types of challenges that we have within the police force, knowing the type of challenges we have with gangs and criminal activity, knowing what is happening in this country, you do not appoint a police commissioner for 6 months. You give him at minimum 2 to 3 years so that he can transform, he can take decisions. But what this tells us is that the Labour Party or this administration is putting people in acting position, giving them short stints so that they can pull their strings. So you do what I want, and if you don't do what I want, I'm not going to make you permanent. I'm not going to give you a longer term contract. Timothy, we have an acting Governor General for 3 years. Well, this is the 4th year. Can you imagine this? We have had an acting Governor General for the last 3 years and into the 4th year of the Labour Party, pulling people's strings. So what are you saying? That this man is not qualified to become Governor General? Then take him out and put somebody else. So why do you think people make those statements? It's because those type of policy decisions. 6 months, so you're saying to him, if you don't do what I want for the next 6 months, then I'm not going to give you a longer term contract. I'm not going to renew your contract, etc. That is pulling people's string, and that is unfair. That is very political and unfair.
Before we take the calls, what's happening on Sunday on the William Peter Boulevard?
On Sunday on the William Peter Boulevard, the United Workers' Party is going to present, as I said, our candidates, or the first phase of our candidates.
How many new candidates you'll expect to present?
I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, team. That's a smart way. But I can certainly say to you that we will have a mix of some of our prior candidates, we call them the older ones, and a mixture of new candidates. So I am inviting you personally as a reporter, maybe that your lead story can be on Monday. Big and bold, United Workers' Party is coming out bigger, better, and stronger. That's what I want the headlines to be. But we will be presenting to St. Lucia the first phase of our candidates to say to them, these are some of the people who will be vying for some of those constituencies. And it also starts the beginning of the campaign of the United Workers' Party. We're starting very early. We're hitting the ground very early, so that we can hear from the people, so that we can vibe with the people, so we can understand better what the challenges are. But it's also going to give us an opportunity to be able to ensure that the policies that we put in place are coming from the people. We don't want to sit in our offices and sit in wherever we are and create policies for the development of this country. Hence the reason we're starting very early, so we can go on the ground and hear from the people what they want to see in this country, how they want to see their country develop. And we will combine that with the vision that we have for the development of this country in preparing for our policy positions in moving forward. So I'm inviting everybody to come on Sunday, see the new candidates, rally and support them. We're also going to speak about the issues, of course, that are affecting us. I cannot say to you that we will be giving policy positions, as I said, but certainly we'll be giving certain hints as to some of the things that we want to do for this
What time
country.
does it start?
We start at 5 o'clock in the William Peter Boulevard.
We put the telephone number on screen so that you can call right now and be a part of the conversation via some brief comments and your questions for my guest once again, Mrs. Nancy Charles, Officer for National Mobilization of the Opposition United Workers' Party. Let us ensure that our conversation is one that is, yes, robust, stimulating, but respectful as well. I came across some information somewhere, I don't know if it was on social media, that a request was made that there shouldn't be any placards. I don't know where this came from.
No,
No?
I saw something on social media, but no, we're
Okay.
not, because it's not a protest march, it's not a protest meeting.
I just mean that no placards allowed.
No placards allowed, because if you're going to have, according to the police and the permission that were given, if you're going to have a public meeting, you're not allowed to have placards. The placards is appropriate for a march, and
Right.
then there's a different type of security level, I think,
Okay.
for that type of thing. So I do want to make a special appeal to St. Lucians, to supporters, well-wishers who want to come to the boulevard. Please, no placards allowed, or else you'll get the police to shut down our meeting, and that is not what we want.
We have a caller 9. Good evening. NewsMaker Live, you're on the air. Brief comment or question. Go ahead, please. All right.
Can I-
Yes, go ahead.
Can you speak a little louder on this? Yeah.
All right, thanks a lot. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, caller. In terms of your last question, I cannot verify that. I've never heard Alan say that. I know persons ascribed a lot of things that Alan, when he was Prime Minister, said, and they interpreted it in their own way. So I cannot speak to that. But let's talk about the Cabot land. Let's establish one thing, which is why I made it very clear to Tim. The Cabot land was never government land. The Cabot land did not belong to the government of St. Lucia. It didn't belong to the people of St. Lucia. Cabot land was in receivership with Scotia Bank at the time. It was private entity purchased by a private individual. They couldn't pay it, and the bank took it. And it was in receivership. And that land was up for sale on the open market, and a company called Cabot made an offer to the bank to purchase the land. So that is very different. If the bank wanted to sell it at $5, $2, just so they can recover their cost, that was within their purview. The Bannon's land belonged to the government
caller.
of St. Lucia. And that is where we make the distinction, caller. And additionally, with the Dahe Mall was never sold on the price. The Dahe Mall was not sold either. The Dahe Mall was incorporated into a business plan where we had this white elephant, which is what we call it, that had been sitting there for years and nobody wanted anything to do with it. And so there was an agreement with the company that if you develop it, we'll give it to you at a particular price. You can take it to the bank, find the money, develop it, and now government owns 2 floors on this property, caller. Government owns 2 floors on this property. You have to rent it for 15 years at I think it's about $4 per square foot, and at the end of the 15 years it comes back to the government. It belongs to us, so it was never sold.
We have a call.
That's the difference.
Good evening to you. Thanks for holding on. Go ahead, please, with your contribution. Caller, I can't hear you too clearly, please. I can't hear you. Maybe you have to speak directly into your phone. Let me hear you better. Yeah, I will try to listen to what you're saying, but go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead, please, caller. Okay, you're saying that it's a conflict of interest for a government minister to be a talk show host. Why? And you want to get a feedback from Mrs. Charles on this? Oh, okay, all right. All right, ma'am. Thank you so much. We have another call in line. Good evening to you, NewsMaker Live. You're on the air. Hi, good evening to you, caller.
Team people say they're not hearing the calls.
They're not hearing the callers.
I'm getting messages that
Okay,
people are
well,
not
maybe
hearing
on
callers.
Facebook, I don't know. But my technical people will work on it. Yes, go ahead, please, caller. Hello? Okay, the call is not coming through. Let's await some more calls. Good evening, NewsMaker Live, you're on the air. Hi, good evening to you, caller.
Good evening. I'm not the host, I'm the guest. Yes. I grew up in a small community of Greece, and I have always been one who's been involved in community development, community activities, etc. I've served in various capacities within the community. After years of doing that, I recognized that a lot of persons needed assistance in just basic things, getting help in accessing certain information, accessing certain institutions. But I also saw that we had been represented by a particular party for over 20-something years, and there was very little development, and I thought there was a lot more that I could do and contribute.
Hold that
so
point,
that's why I
let
got
me then
involved.
instruct my producer that again, no sound. Okay, so the folks are not hearing the calls. Let me say that to my producer. People are insisting that they are not hearing the call, so we to try to rectify this. But go ahead.
Right, and so that was one of the main reasons. There were other reasons, but that was one of the main reasons that I decided to get involved in politics, to try and make a difference in the life of people and to help people.
Yes, caller.
Sorry?
Now, caller, we've pressed for time. Caller, hold on. Caller, we pressed for time, so I don't know where you're going with this particular question. All right, I'm the one who's doing the interviewing. No, I don't have to wait. Caller, I don't. Hold on, please, caller. Let me tell you something. Caller, you're dragging the program along by asking those simple little questions. I want to know where you're going with this. Get to the point, sir.
Okay, I want to go ahead. I want to ask her.
Yes.
Okay, caller. Thank you so much, because you're not going anywhere with this particular question. We have another call. Good evening. NewsMaker Live, you're on the air. Hello? Hello, good evening to you, caller. Okay, we've lost that call. Let's see if we get some more calls coming in, and hopefully we'll be able to rectify whatever problem that we're experiencing. Some of the folks not hearing, people are not hearing the calls on television. We have a call? Hello, good evening. NewsMaker Live, you're on the air.
Good evening, Tim. Good evening, Miss Nancy Charles.
Good evening to you, caller.
I want to say two things, two quick comments. I want to congratulate the United Workers Party for being progressive, for being the opposition that it is right now, for ensuring that the government remains accountable and transparent to the people. I want Ms. Nancy Charles to explain to Solution what is the rationale in the government imposing the 2.5% levy, and that was for health and security, when we found out late on a city in the effects of the so-called 2% when the hospital at the hospital. I'm asking Ms. Nancy Charles, take the whole
Okay, I'm not hearing the call.
Right. But caller, if I understand you, you were talking about the 2.5% levy. And my appeal to St. Lucians is on Sunday. I'm not asking only Timothy, maybe supporters for the United Workers Party, to come to the boulevard. My plea, and one of the main reasons that I'm here tonight, is to ask St. Lucians on a whole, if you care about your country, if you care about your community, and if you recognize that there is this veil of silence in this country team, that nobody wants to speak, everybody's afraid, this is your opportunity to come to the boulevard. You can come in green, you can come in black, you can come in orange, of course don't come in red, but you can come and to show and send a strong message to the St. Lucia Labour Party that you are not happy with the way things are going on in this country. You are not happy that the Labour Party continues to mislead, and I don't want to say lie on your show, but you mislead when you say you're going to pass a levy specifically for security and for health, and then we find out it was never for that. It was because of a condition of a loan that you want to take down the line, and then to look at it that no increase in allocation has been made either to security or to health. I mean, we continue to operate with Timothy, can you imagine there's no water in a hospital? People, you have to come out, you must stand up and you must say this is wrong. It does not mean you support the UWP or you'll vote for the UWP, but at least if you come to the boulevard on Sunday, you will be saying to St. Lucia, I don't support what is happening in this country. I don't support what the Prime Minister is doing. I don't support having a minister. I don't have a problem with a minister hosting a talk show, you know, Tim. I don't have any problems with that. But it is what you do and say on that talk show. You cannot use the talk show to bully citizens, to speak out about issues of national interest, that you should be speaking to people, whether in Parliament or otherwise. You can't.
I think we have a call in line. Good evening to you, NewsMaker Live. You're on the air.
Good evening, Timothy. Good evening, Nancy.
Right, good evening to you, caller.
Nancy, very good job tonight.
Thank you very much, caller.
You're most welcome. My comment is that you spoke about the race thing, and I think we need to stop that race thing because St. Lucia has all different races. So that racism thing that is being brought into politics, it makes absolutely no sense. At the end of the day, Alan Chasney's father is a black man. He's not a white man. Right? His mother is white. If they want to use the race card, we could say Kenny Anthony's father is a white man and his mother is a black woman. So what's the difference?
But let me ask you a question.
So they really need to stop that.
Does it matter if Alan Chasney is black and white? Which is one of the things I asked. Isn't he a St. Lucian? Isn't he entitled as a St. Lucian? Yes.
And that is what that matters. That is what that matters. So they really need to stop playing that card thing. They really need to stop it. Good night, Nancy. Good night.
Thank you very
much. Ma'am. Thank you so much.
See, my daughter, I have one of my daughters who's studying in Taiwan. Let's say she falls in love with a Taiwanese. And she has they have a family and they have children. And these children would be the Taiwanese born, I don't know what you call them, but they would be mixed. Is it because these children are of Taiwanese heritage and St. Lucian heritage that they should not be entitled to participate in elective politics in St. Lucia? You know, so sometimes I ask myself, why and what do we have to achieve with this? It takes us nowhere. What is important is the vision, the integrity of the individual. If you want to speak about that, I'm fine with that. That's fair game. But we have no place for racism, black, white, Indian, whatever national. We don't have no place in our society for this. It's unacceptable. And again, I will say, supporters and also members of the St. Lucia Labour Party should be ashamed of themselves. They really should be ashamed of themselves. Because they were the ones who brought this to our country.
We don't have any calls coming in, but we continue to take your calls for the broadcast. Whether you have a question or a comment for my guest, Mrs. Nancy Charles. Let's look at another issue, and that has to do with healthcare in St. Lucia. Somebody did. Okay, we have a call. Good evening to you. NewsMaker Live, you're on the air.
So did you talk to Nancy?
Caller, can you, and I want you to be very as direct as possible, because time is against us. We want to take as many callers as possible. Go ahead.
I was asking Nancy, why did she sit in a government and allow a abattoir. The last time St. Lucia owned an abattoir was about 60 years. It was situated where the marketing board is. For you to allow and deprive in a government, deprive St. Lucians of an abattoir which is badly needed, with an abattoir that will be making bacon, ham, sausage, and other things, to be shut as a gift, fully equipped, knowing the problem that farmers have to slaughter, to transport, and to move about. Why did you allow that? Also, I want to ask you, the racetrack, who financed the racetrack? Wasn't it K.O. Akin that was given passports to be sold? He used the young girl that represented St. Lucia as Miss World or Miss Universe to promote the sales of passports.
Dr. Mandezi, I have to stop you. I do have to stop you. Because you know, hold on. I listen to you. I'll stop you when it comes to the passport. You know for a fact, Ernest Hille knows for a fact, hold on, the Prime Minister knows for a fact that Theo Akin was not or has not sold one passport in St. Lucia. Not one. He applied and he applied under one of his companies. They applied to become an approved developer, but that application was made after the racetrack was done. And there is absolutely no evidence. Hold on.
Dr. Mandezi, can you just listen, please?
Give me a minute.
Dr. Mandezi, hold on. Dr. Mandezi, I've heard you have called other talk shows. You have raised that same issue. And you have, hold on, please. Hold on, please. And you are...
I don't want you to answer questions.
Okay, caller, I have no time for this. But anyway,
Tim, just give me an opportunity.
Yeah,
and this is something, again, Dr. Mandezi is saying that, but if you recognize, and I want St. Lucians to recognize, up to a day like today, neither Ernest Hille nor the Prime Minister has made that allegations because they know better. They know that there is no evidence. St. Lucia, Mr. Theo Akin has never sold not one St. Lucian passport for any of his projects. The racetrack was fully financed, paid for, over $15 million US by Theo Akin, his money and his investors' money. St. Lucia has not put one dime, not one dime of the public's money into any of Theo Akin's project. The project was going to be financed, the track was always going to be financed by Theo Akin. He did apply, Timothy, to become an approved developer under the CIP. He got his application approved, but he never went through the process of advertising or selling any passport. We had COVID, the government changed, and up to a day like today, the gentleman has never sold the passport in St. Lucia. So I want Dr. Mandezi and the zealots of the St. Lucia Labour Party to stop perpetuating that lie. Dr. Mandezi, you are a minister of government. Conduct yourself as such. You shouldn't be spewing this kind of garbage to get people to believe this. This is crazy.
Another call. Good evening, NewsMaker Live, you're on the air.
Dr. Mandezi is broke and eating in...
Okay, caller. Thank you so much. We'll not get into the Mapui. Another call. Good evening, NewsMaker Live, you're on the air.
Yes. Good evening, Mr. Timothy, and good evening to your guest.
Good evening to you, caller.
Good evening.
Okay. First of all, Timothy, I am very sad that in an era where we are supposed to be a thriving and developing nation, we have the race issue being a factor. And, it is very sad that prominent St. Lucian son, who is doing his own thing and has helped our country through that. It is very, very sad. And I am ashamed of just the racism aspect of this thing. And I'm hoping that, as we develop, Timothy, this kind of foolishness will not continue in our country. Secondly, the bread and butter issues of the country, the cost of living has gone high. And we are looking at what is happening in close territories, especially Matne, riots. People are actually going out on the street and protesting. Timothy, I am sad because the Chamber of Commerce knows better. They know better. I am sad when our medical fraternity and the executive of the medical fraternity came out to explain we should be thankful that the people came out and to explain the deficiencies. But we have people in the hierarchy of our country slandering the character of a professional individual. And we have people, women in politics, who said nothing. The chamber, who has said nothing. They have other organizations who have said absolutely nothing. And Timothy, it is a very sad state in our country. And I am sometimes not even, proud, to really be part of this kind of thing. But tonight, I want to say that I'm hearing something good is going to happen on the 29th. And believe you me, I want to see candidates that are of substance. Because I am going to be very critical in this coming election. If they are not of substance, nobody can get in my vote, Timothy. And I make that public. Because I believe we need to develop that caliber of person that we can hold accountable, number one, and also people that can represent our country and to take us from in the next step. Thank you, Timothy.
Thank you so much. What say you?
Well, I agree with the caller, and that is why we're making every effort to ensure that we can give them candidates that are of the highest standard. St. Lucians deserve better.
We have a call. Good evening, Newsmaker Live. Okay, we've lost this call. Let's see if we can wait, get another call. Good evening, you're on the air. Hello?
Yes. Good evening, Timothy.
Yes, good evening to you, caller.
Good evening, Nancy.
Good evening, caller.
Yes, this is your humble servant, Nancy Peter Chico.
Oh, hi, Mr. Chico.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Okay, I just wanted to inform you. When I tuned on to the program, I heard you and Timothy speaking on the special prosecutors. Timothy also did mention the Integrity in Public Life Act. I just wanted to inform you that I, Peter Chico, have filed 5 complaints with both the special prosecutor and the Integrity Commission.
Wonderful.
That was filed last week. I have received acknowledgement of receipt from both of these agencies. As a matter, I heard you all mention that you all couldn't get the special prosecutor's office. I too could not have find the special prosecutor's office, but eventually able to get my files to them, and they have actually issued me an acknowledgement of receipt. So the special prosecutor, I am waiting patiently to hear what is going to happen with these 5 matters. And these 5 matters are in relation to the Burnett Hiller Robergate scandal.
Okay.
So I'm waiting with bated breath to hear what is going to happen between the special prosecutor's office and the Integrity Commission's office, because something has to be done. I know when I was sitting as Controller of Customs, I operated within the framework of the Customs Act, and everything that was done was within the framework of the Act. What transpired in that matter, I could say it openly, in my view, that is total corruption. Mm-hmm. And all the 5 complaints, all the 5 individuals that I wrote the complaints about, know exactly what they will have to answer to by both of these agencies. I thank you and have a blessed night. You too.
Thank
you so much for calling.
Thank you, caller.
We await some of your calls. I think we can take at least 2 more calls before we conclude our broadcast. Good evening to you. Newsmaker Live, you're on the air.
Hi, Jim.
Hi, good evening to you, Rick.
I just heard the gentleman talking about holding people accountable, and then I said to myself, well, how do you hold people accountable here? Who has been held accountable here for anything? I mean, we just talk those things year after year, election after election. Government goes into office and governments leave. The Integrity Commission is a joke. Nobody has been hauled before the Integrity Commission. There have been loads of names in the Gazette waiting for the DPP or whoever he or she might be. Nobody has ever been hauled to account. We know politicians come in broke as hell, and we see them looking like they're very rich soon after they come out of office, even after 1 term. Nobody has ever heard anybody being called accountable on either side. It's as if the politicians have a silent agreement that they're going to push so far on things, but no further. Our police force. How many murders do we have this week? How many homicides
For this year?
Yeah.
We have
No, not the year. I wouldn't dare.
For this year, we have not. For this week, we have not had any.
But last week, what, 4?
Maybe the week before, we had about 4. Yeah.
There were 5?
About 4.
4 homicides in 1 week. And I'm not going to go into the others for the earlier part of the year. And neither am I holding any government responsible for stopping the crime. What I'm holding them responsible for is not doing anything significant to stop the crime. And even Dr. Kenny Anthony has made that point, that all the methods, all the processes that have been used have proved to be useless, and that something new has to be done to him. And that new, in my not so humble opinion, is that you need a police force manned with right numbers, trained in forensics and detection work and all that kind of stuff. And that costs money, a lot of money. And it seems to me that should be on every politician's number one thing on their list. Campaigning politicians as well as government politicians. No campaigning government is worth its salt if it's not going to tell people that they have been wrong in the handling of crime in this country for many years, and that they're going to make it a number one priority by putting serious money behind protection of people's lives, protection of people so they can make use of our environment, go to the beach and not feel nervous, go and read a book and watch a sunset. We cannot do any of those things. Your son or your friend goes for a thing in January, a party, you're not sure he's coming back, and all that kind of stuff. And it's no longer just gangs, because we have grown-up people who seem quite ordinary. We've also got people so afraid in this country that there's no critical thinking, there's no opposing of any views, because people are scared of retribution. They're scared of getting their whole mother's story on TV, and they're scared for their lives. But I don't hear enough talk, serious talk, from the politicians that they are taking that thing, that one subject, as important as it is, and we're ready to put millions into it, and they put millions into other things that look good. But really, as the gentleman from the governor from the what do you call him, the bank recently, he made the point. That's a good point. That CIP money should be used in certain directions that will affect people continuously.
Yeah.
It's all of that. So the whole thing about the campaigning and the kind of candidates and this, and talking about people of substance. How do you determine people of substance in a week or month? And who are the people in Parliament now who fit the bill for people of substance? When what you hear for debates are the kind of rows you hear outside the market with drunken people. I mean, we have tolerated a lot of crap for too many years, and it's now at a level that seems beyond us. So what we want to hear from politicians, campaigning politicians, is not the same old bullshit. We want to hear what the changes they're going to make. They're going to do something, spend money in a different direction, etc. I could go on, Tim, but, and the race thing, by the way, that race has gradually grown. It didn't just hit us suddenly. It's grown. And nobody wants to point fingers at who the perpetrators are, who the biggest promoters of racism are. Everybody's scared for one reason or another. So we think in generalizations.
That includes you, Rick.
Oh no. That doesn't include me at all. I have written enough about individuals and their idiosyncrasies. Thank you very much, Tim.
All right. Let me pose a final question to you. It has to do with your expectations as far as the next general election is concerned, in terms of its conduct, in terms of some of the challenges that not only the United Party can experience, but the Central Labour Party as well. Global Index for Free and Fair Elections suffers biggest decline in 2023, and that is according to the International Institute for Democracy and Electoral Assistance. Some of the concerns would include disinformation and the use of artificial intelligence, the threat of foreign interference, and issues relating to voter registration. What are your concerns as far as those things are concerned?
I think we as a party, we are concerned about both of them, actually. We have and I've worked elections in other jurisdictions within the OECS. I think St. Lucia has a very, very, very good process when it comes to ensuring that on election day this happens and the transparency, etc. But leading to that, I think the concerns of both artificial intelligence and foreign interference is also a very huge concern for us. And even when you look at what is happening within the CIP, for example, I got a voice note that is circulating that the Prime Minister of Dominica, for example, is going to be in St. Lucia on a particular talk show to try and influence St. Lucians in a particular direction with reference to CIP. And we do know that most of the persons who purchase our passport or who makes contribution towards acquiring citizenship for St. Lucians are foreigners. Persons have asked us the questions over and over again. Are those persons entitled to vote? And the law is very clear. They have to be here, I think, living here for 6 months or thereabout and stuff like that. But because of the magnitude of this problem and because of perhaps the relationships that foreign governments may build with a particular political organization, there is a tendency for there to be foreign interference, a tendency for there to be either policies, they can for their policies influence with money and projects and things happening. So it is a concern for us, and especially with AI and the issue of disinformation, people are now very concerned, is this true or is this not true? So yes, these things can influence, and we are also very concerned. We're not too small to be influenced by it, for sure, Timothy. However, what we want to ensure at the end of the day is that we run a campaign that is clean, a campaign that is very clear, and we try as much as possible whenever this type of disinformation comes that we just nip it in the bud as early as possible. But we are also going to be I want to send a very strong message to the St. Lucia Labour Party that we will be monitoring the relationships with foreign governments, foreign entities, to ensure that there is a level of fairness and that there is limited, if any, interference by any foreign country or agencies into our political process.
What about when, for example, the results are challenged and taken to the courts? It takes forever. I mean, there was, I think, was it the 2011 general election involving Babino and also Grosselet?
Still pending. Yeah. I am not a legal person in that regard, but I do think, I do think I was about to say that I do think there needs to be some sort of priority given to challenges that are being made when it comes to election. You had the issues in St. Kitts and other countries, and it's always been a problem. However, what I do want to say is that in terms of the electoral department and the rules and the regulations, it also allows for political parties prior to the elections being called to put certain measures and to do certain things and to bring to the attention of the electoral department certain things that you think that is untoward, so that you can take prior action instead of taking actions afterwards. So I think as a political organization, you just have to be on your P's and Q's. But yes, this is a concern that if there are certain irregularities that transpires within an election, that it be given priority within the court system, because that can impact government, who is going to form the next government or not.
Do you expect that there will be changes done to the boundaries before the next general election to increase the number of seats?
I think that both political parties are looking forward to changes within those boundaries. Some of the constituency, definitely we all agree, are too large. However, where we differ is that there needs to be, and again, it's process. There is a recommendation by the Commonwealth so that there is a proper process that is very clear, that is transparent, that everybody can see how they came to it. There was a previous, I don't know if you recall, a couple of years ago, and we had to challenge it as a party because we did not think that it was fair. So we are all in agreement that the boundaries need to change, but there is a process. Will it happen before the next general election? If that due process is followed, I am not sure that it will take place before that. And again, this is one of the matters that we'll be monitoring very closely. We will not allow for there to be any gerrymandering of this process at all.
Final comments from you?
My final comments to St. Lucian is that there is a veil of silence on this country, Timothy. And what we recognize, if I make the analogy, is that the St. Lucia Labour Party over the years, every time they're in government, they've put St. Lucia and created this sort of a cage where you put St. Lucians in and you feed them with breadcrumbs. And so it creates this kind of fighting within us and among us. If it's one thing that I say to people, let's not fight with each other for politics and for politicians. It's not worth it. We are all St. Lucians together. Members of the Labour Party have the best interests of St. Lucia at heart. Members of UWP has the best interests of St. Lucia at heart. How we go about doing it is where we differ. And what has happened over the years is that there's been this fighting, we curse each other and do all these kind of things. And why is it? It's because we are fighting for our very survival. What has been created, especially under the Labour Party, is to pit one against each other because of survival. I want a little job at step. I want to be nice. I want a contract. I want this. So I'm going to fight with my neighbor to ensure that the Labour Party remains so that I can get those type of benefits for me. And what we do not recognize, it has created this fear from individuals. We call on the chamber. We call on everybody. Why do they not speak out? We know why they don't speak out. If you're a business person, and you want to speak out against what this government is doing, Tim, you will be ostracized, you will be victimized. If you have a little contract with government, they'll go to the nitty-gritty to ensure that they take it away from you. And so this fear is being perpetrated on our people. This is not a way to run a country. This is not a good way to run a country. We are saying, as the United Workers' Party, we are going to be different. We're going to remove that cage off of the shoulders and the backs of St. Lucia. We're going to stop feeding you breadcrumbs and we're going to give you real bread. As a matter of fact, what we say is we have a whole bakery out there waiting for you. What I want St. Lucians to envision is a St. Lucia where we are free, is a St. Lucia where we can thrive, a St. Lucia where we can grow and develop, and a country that we can be proud of, and a country where we can be our neighbor's keeper and we can be our friends. I believe we can achieve that, but we have to have a different style of politics. And this is what we will be presenting to St. Lucians on the Boulevard on Sunday. A new way of doing things, a new way of saying things, a new vision for St. Lucia, so that we can all live together, all develop and all grow together. So my final words is to invite every right-thinking St. Lucian, not only supporters of UWP. If you want to see a change, if you want to make a statement to the St. Lucia Labour Party, if you want to see that your country go forward, come show us the support on Sunday on the William Pillar Boulevard. Come make a statement and say, I in that. So see you on Sunday.
Officer for National Mobilization of the Opposition United Workers' Party, Mrs. Nancy Charles, thank you so much for being my guest on this evening's NewsMaker Live. And to you, thank you so much for watching the broadcast and listening as well and contributing via your calls. If it's Wednesday, it's NewsMaker Live. Time now for the clip that peaked.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets of the people that live there. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets of the people that live there.
People of Springfield, please don't eat my cats. Why would you do that? Eat something else. People of Springfield, please don't eat my dog. Here's a catalog of other things to eat.
They're eating the dogs.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
They're eating the cats.
Meow, 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 meow.
They're eating the pets of the people that live there. They're eating the dogs.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
They're eating the cats.
Meow, 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 meow.
They're eating the pets of the people that live there. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. They're eating the dogs.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
They're eating the cats.
Meow, 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 meow.
Once again, as a broadcast, thank you so much for watching. My name is Timothy Poleon, saying good night and see you next time.
I, Philip Joseph here.
I would like to be judged as being the Prime Minister, not being judged as being part of a government.
Came into government that we had a manifesto and a vision and mission that had been approved by my party, by the highest body.
Basel 11 has not been in existence.